Relationships in the Star Wars universe are very complex. Individuals like father and son, father and daughter, mother and son, mother and daughter, brothers, sisters, lovers, etc. The entirety of their relationships connect the Star Wars universe together in a very special way. So today, I wanted to focus on relationships, not just outside of the greater galaxy, but actually within the Jedi Order. Because if you don't know, the Jedi Order isn't really that, you know, uh, very progressive when it comes to relationships, mainly due to the fact that they believe that emotional attachment would lead to possession, which would lead to jealousy, and which would lead to the dark side of the Force. So today we're going to explore all these relationships that have happened throughout the entirety of the Jedi Order, and we're going to see how they went and what exactly happened to cause these relationships to break the Jedi Code and how they adapted over time. But first, a little bit of backstory. All the way back in the day of the year 4000 BBY, some individuals decreed that marriage was no longer allowed within the Jedi Order. This could have something to do with Darth Revan and Bastila Shaw getting together. I'm not completely sure, to be 100% honest with you. This just happens to be within the time frame of about 4000 BBY, so it does kind of make sense. But since the prequel trilogy, it has been dictated that individuals within the Jedi Order cannot be married and they cannot have, emotional attachments to individuals because emotional attachments would lead to the dark side through one way or another. Whether it be through possession, whether it be through jealousy, whether it be through hatred and anger and frustration, and that would eventually lead to the dark side of the Force, which would cause individuals to become Sith Lords. Now, take note, all of this comes from a religious group that believes that individuals should not have emotional attachments towards other people, but also puts younglings and Padawans under the care of masters, who then give them the ability to be like parental figures towards those individuals, and will obviously lead those individuals to basically have emotional attachments towards those younglings, and the younglings to have emotional attachments towards their masters. I don't know why that's the case. Kind of weird that you didn't think ahead like that. Main examples of this obviously being Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn, where Obi-Wan was basically dependent on Qui-Gon Jinn since he was the only individual that would actually take him on as his apprentice, and he thought of him as sort of a father figure. The same would go for Anakin Skywalker, who thought of Qui-Gon Jinn as a father figure, but also thought of Obi-Wan Kenobi as a father figure later on down the line, before the two of them established each other as kind of a kinship of brotherhood. And of course, whenever you get deeper into the Star Wars universe, you see that there are plenty of Jedi throughout the entirety of the Star Wars universe who have kind of parental figureship relationships between them and their apprentices, which is not very uncommon. But it's really weird that they would do that despite the fact that they are supposed to be an order of individuals who don't believe in relationships of that caliber. But then, of course, the real problem here is the romantic relationships that we find in the Star Wars universe, like the main example being Anakin Skywalker and Padme Amidala, where Anakin Skywalker is heavily infatuated with Padme Amidala for well over 10 years at this point during Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, and had kind of a crush on her at the beginning of The Phantom Menace whenever he first met her and immediately called her an angel. Then the real business comes whenever they get married and they have to hide their relationship from everybody in the Jedi Order, especially Obi-Wan Kenobi, who senses kind of a faint budding relationship between the two of them, but does nothing to try and suppress it, but only gives Anakin like slight advice about how the Jedi Order would immediately expel him from the Jedi for even thinking about leaving his mission to save Padme as she falls out of the LAAT during the Battle of Geonosis. But of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi also had relationships throughout his lifetime. During his original days as an apprentice to Qui-Gon Jinn, he would develop a relationship with Tachi. The two of them would have a budding relationship, but unfortunately the relationship would be nipped in the bud after Obi-Wan Kenobi and Tachi had a conversation with Yoda and Qui-Gon Jinn, where they would expressly tell the young Jedi about the consequences of having an emotional and physical attachment to somebody, just like Obi-Wan's master Qui-Gon Jinn did with the late Jedi Master Tal, that crushed Qui-Gon Jinn to the point where he almost was driven to the dark side of the Force. Obi-Wan Kenobi's second relationship, of course, would be with Duchess Satine. There is no real information on how exactly the relationship became what it was, and there is no real information on how Obi-Wan Kenobi became so deeply infatuated with her that he would leave the Jedi Order for good upon her request. Needless to say, however, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Satine's relationship was so strong that Obi-Wan Kenobi even took the risk of stealing Anakin's own personal ship to go save Satine from the clutches of Darth Maul, but unfortunately she would die in his arms later during that mission. And of course, there would be several relationships within the Jedi Order that nobody would really notice or really pay much attention to, such as Quinlan Vos and his many adventures throughout the galaxy, where he would actually develop a relationship with the Sith assassin known as Asajj Ventress, the relationship between Aayla Secura and Jedi Master Kit Fisto, several other individuals who became infatuated with and began having relationships with several other individuals within the Jedi Order, but the main one, of course, being Anakin Skywalker and Padme Amidala, because it's the main one in the story that we like to focus on, for he is the main character, and she birthed the twins known as Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia Organa. But of course, I will be talking about all of this on my podcast known as Hollow Access Network. If you want to go check it out, check out episode 1, which will be in the description down below. And of course, have an excellent day. May the Force be with you.